All right. Well, let's kick things off, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Office 365 Productivity Tips. This is the December Demolition. Tom, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. As I said, it's not quite full winter. It's like it warmed. There's still snow everywhere on the mountains here in Utah. But like I went out running yesterday with the dogs, and I bundled up, and I came back in, a minute later, and removed a layer to go running. So it's been warmer, but I'm ready for this.
Yeah, I took a look through the 25-day forecast here and was able to see that probably about the first week of January or so, we start getting into those highs of 12, lows minus something. I'm like, yes, I can go throw boiling water outside and watch it evaporate, because I'm still new enough to Minneapolis and Minnesota that still causes me great amount of joy to watch happen. So
yeah, that's exciting for like 30 seconds. Awesome.
Yeah, it is. But then I'm freeze and come in and we're fine.
Yeah, there you go. Well, just quick introductions here. We'll get started. My name is Buckley. So I run a consulting company. We do technical marketing and research services, primarily within the Microsoft ecosystem. We call CollabTalk LLC. I'm based, as I mentioned, out of the Salt Lake City area. You can find me at buckleyplanet.com, on Twitter at buckleyplanet. And then something that's new, I don't know why we've not been doing this. This is our 9th time doing this format. And every one of those, the previous 8 are all available on my YouTube channel. Please go in and subscribe. I would love that, just so I can get rid of that long, ugly number. I need 100 followers on that to subscribers to be able to have my CollabTalk YouTube page. But anyway, you can find, if you go and find on the playlists, there's the Office 365 Productivity Tips playlist, and you'll find all of those. Or feel free to peruse that content. Tom, over to you.
And then there's me. Unlike Christian, who runs his own company and everything, I work for a company. And Canby Health Solutions out in the Pacific Northwest, and pretty much a software engineer working primarily on the SharePoint side of Office 365, and staring down the barrel of a very long 2019 as it comes to migrating stuff from 2010 to SharePoint Online. So that'll be fun.
Yeah, at one point I was thinking about this when I saw you last too, about that we should do an interview. I'd love to find out about where you are in your progress, like a lot of companies that have moved from the older versions to Office 365. And I'd love to just get your thoughts. We don't have to talk about specifics about your company, but some of the issues, some of the aha moments that you had as you're moving to the latest version. It's always fascinating for people to hear that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you can call me anytime at about 1 a.m. when I wake up and think, what in the heck are we doing? So, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're up, I mean, might as well. So, yeah.
That's right. You said you did have really odd sleeping patterns still.
I do, unfortunately. I'm still at about the 4.5 hours sleep. I don't know what's going on.
Wow. Okay.
Anyway, all right. So here's the layout. Here's how we do these sessions. Try to make it fun for Tom and myself as well as for everybody. So there are the rules of engagements. We do have polls that we'll be doing. So I'll be pushing out those polls after each of these rounds. But we go through 5 rounds. Each of us takes turns, generally speaking. There are no duplicates, meaning that we made this rule. I think I had a dupe early on, and after that we said, you know what? If you ever tune into one of these episodes, you'll never see the same tips twice, save when we are doing this alone in a live a session. Like if one of us is presenting at a SharePoint Saturday, we have authorized the other person to draw on the best of our favorites for those presentations. And like I was mentioning before we started recording here, is that Tom and I are co-presenting at the SharePoint Conference North America in Las Vegas in May. And we're going to be running through 20 of our favorites. And it won't be in this head-to-head format. It'll be just a list of our favorites and demos of those, and should be a blast. But
yeah, we'll find a temporary peace treaty and not attack each other constantly.
Sure.
We won't have time.
Yeah. Again, in theory, that's the goal going in. But Tom, it's going to be it's jam-packed. I mean, 20
Oh yeah,
and 60.
we'll have to fly.
Yeah, we will. So the audience votes, as I mentioned, after each one. We say no hitting below the belt. It happens sometimes, but yeah, it happens.
It happens for me because you can't reach below my belt because I'm significantly shorter than you are. So,
Well, but I've got knees. They work.
True, you do.
So, and then we do it. We tally those. So after this recording, I'll go back through as part of the post-production and add a slide for the winner for each round, and then we tally, and you'll see more of that. And to know where we are, so we just did the most recent last month was the SharePoint Saturday Twin Cities there in Minneapolis, and which I won. Thank you. But we are of overall rounds, we're tied at 20 apiece and 4 events apiece. So it's been, I guess that's a good thing. It's been, if it were just a slam dunk every time, Tom winning, what's the fun in that? And the fact that it's a bit of a back and forth.
Oh, there's a lot of fun in that if it's me.
Yeah.
And I look at those stats and I see that since 2 of them are tied, the only one that matters is the one where one of us has a significant advantage. That would be me in the number of votes. So hey,
yeah, that's right. All right. So we'll get started. As Tom said, though, we do ask people to just because everybody loves Tom, come on. Just because of that doesn't mean you have to vote for him. Come on, just vote your conscience with it. And the idea is that the tips, though. It's going to be apples versus oranges. I don't think we've ever seen like a PowerPoint tip to a PowerPoint tip or Outlook to Outlook.
It's been really rare, and you're right. It's not cropping up in my mind of anyone where we.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, it's bound to happen because we don't know what each other are going to present here. So we're going to jump into it. So I'm going to start. It's going to go back and forth. So I'll be the first in round 1. Tom will be the first in round 2, and we'll go from there. All right. Here we go. So here is something that, in fact, I've been using a lot lately because this is a common issue. But finding the right meeting time with find time. Tom, have you discovered this one yet?
This is one that I don't want to say that you presented this before.
I haven't.
But I know there was some add-on for Outlook that helped coordinate times, and I don't know if this is where I heard it, but I know that I had a lot of staff that were like, we want that, we need that, and I'm like, fine. So I still need to
look, and like if I've misremembered, that I need to go back through. Now there are 80 tips that we've shared so far, then 100% of the points will all go to Tom for the win on this one.
Go for it. I'm going to let you have this one since I know you don't have any backups.
But even if that's the case, I mean, if you've not started using this, you definitely want to go check it out. And it's something that, it's always frustrating where, going and trying to find like a third-party tool, which are, I don't know that there are free tools out there anymore. There were, of course, you could go trial paid tools and get locked into that endless email cycle here. But Microsoft made this available. It's an app that's available for free. It works with multiple versions of Outlook, the newer versions of that. But once you add the app, you go in and you just create a new email, and you'll see when you restart Outlook, you'll see the new meeting poll find time button there in the ribbon, and you can go ahead and author an email, have your notes, all that typical, then click on that. And what happens is that pops open this new meeting poll. It gives you the calendar view. You go through and you select the days and the times. You can set it up for 30-minute increments or 1 hour, or and then identify required and nice to have optional employees or optional attendees, I should say. But you go through and you select all of that. You can select up to 20 different times. Once you've completed that, then it inserts that into the body of your email and you send it out. First off, important question to be answered there is that, do you have to have the app to be able to respond? No, you don't. So the people receiving this, they'll get it'll be in the body of the email. It's out to this cloud service. That's why this is relies on the cloud service. But you install that, you can then go in, you get all the times where everybody's schedules match up, and then you can go and send out your meeting invites. What's nice too is that you can, I would say, pressure people, direct people towards your preferred time, and everyone can put their preferred time down. So even though they may be available at every time slot, a 4-hour time slot, they said, well, right in the middle or towards the end would be my preferred. And that's just a great planning resource as well, to have that information. So once you've collected all that, then you can go and schedule your meeting, send that invite out. And as you can see there, the last line there, it works with Outlook 2013, 2016, as well as Outlook for the web and for the Mac platform. And if you go to the Find Time website, you will find some details of what the nuances, what's different of each of those versions, so that you can you make sure that you get it installed properly and start using that. So, I mean, Tom, have you used this yet?
No, I haven't, because if I did note that I was supposed to look into it, guess who didn't? But the things that I like about this is, you could come back with well, we have the scheduling assistant in Outlook, why don't you use that? Well, that's fine, but that really only shows you the free times that somebody has available and doesn't really give them a chance to say, hey, I'm wanting to schedule this and it's a half-day meeting and I know I'm never going to find a half-day on anybody's calendar. Here's the times I want to pick. You get to tell me which times you prefer. Right. And that actually meshes in really well to one of my customers that I have, who they wanted to have a lot of assistants to VPs and executives, that they would send out this spreadsheet to all the assistants and say, we have to have this 2-hour meeting that require all these executives, and of course an executive calendar is usually completely full. I want you to tell me which times we have available that we can actually schedule this, and you can bump somebody else. This would actually give you that ability without having to have 14 different spreadsheets going around. And I looked at, it's like, there is no good solution to this. No. This actually would be a decent solution to it.
Well, like anything, and even if it's a third-party app where you're sending people to a website, the fact that this is integrated right into Outlook, it's a no-brainer, and it's free. Yeah. And if you've got that version of Outlook, then you should install this app today.
Yeah.
This is an addendum to the presentation. So I did duplicate a tip that I gave in August. And so the point totals don't count. I lost the round, which flipped the overall event to Tom's favor, but them's the rules. But also part of that, we always like to make sure that we're sharing 10 new tips. So I've added this additional tip for your review. The tip I'm going to share is the automatic suggestions for alt text in Word and PowerPoint. So of course, if you don't know this about alt text on images, so you can add alt text, which helps with some of the accessibility features within Microsoft Office. And so you think about that if you're attaching a description to an image, so that people that have screen readers, or for people that are blind or have vision impairments. So you can even describe things like objects, charts, tables, shapes, smart art, kind of other things around that. So it's a great ease of access functionality. But alt text is also important to SEO and as I call the findability of content on the web. So we make it so we're constantly adding content, and we focus so much on getting content into our information management systems. But there's a problem if that they're not properly classified and structured. That it's hard to find that data in the system unless you know exactly where you're going. And so we become overly reliant on search and the limitations of the algorithms and even of the AI, although it is getting better and better. But alt text is something that you can go in and do manually or even automate that process. So to see the alt text on an image, all you need to do is float your cursor over the image to see that. But if you want to modify that, you can actually right-click on an image, and down the dialog box it opens up, you see the edit alt text down below, and go ahead and click on that, and that opens up a dialog box over on the right side. And so in this example in PowerPoint, where you can see that alt text, and you can toggle on or off for the Office 365, the AI, to make some suggestions, and then enter in that text, whatever you want that to be. And so that's a really powerful capability. It's another AI, focused feature that is enabled because of the connection to the cloud through Office 365. But if you want to automate that, so if you want to, and this is something, if you've ever gone and done this and done cleanup, like on a website, and there are utilities to go and search for all images that are devoid of alt text, or if you want to update alt text. So by just having the automated alt text is better than nothing. But if you're really looking for a higher SEO score, or if you want to make it more searchable, or you're thinking about ease of access of the content, you want to automate this, but then go and add that. But anyway, so how you automate that and turn on that feature is you go into, and in this example, PowerPoint, go up top, navigation to File, down at the bottom there of Options, and then Ease of Access. And you should see the checkbox to turn the feature on. And that's it. And once you have it turned on, it'll automatically, every time you go and insert a picture, and you can play with this experiment by just dropping different pictures into your PowerPoint or your Word doc and looking at the alt text, and you float over it, you'll see that sample text that the AI believes is the case, and it might be accurate, or you might need to go in there and manually update it. But I've got a couple links here to support at office.com, as well as to PowerPoint MVP Heather Ackman's YouTube, where she walks through and talks about this feature and its importance. So check it out.
And this is a very simple one that was one that I really didn't even know that you could do it, but it was kind of cool once somebody pointed it out to me. So in Outlook, I usually have the task pane out there, and all my stuff pops up that comes up on a daily basis or weekly basis or stuff like that. But the order that you see this is really a first in, first out type thing. So if I have a repeating task out there, recharge Fitbit, that I have like every Monday and Thursday, just so I remember to do it and it doesn't die, it's going to be up towards the top of the list because I set it up a long time ago. So it, first in, first out type thing. But in reality, that's not really that important when compared to other things I may want to have. So I may want to have that in the bottom of the list, and I can do that now. So what I've got is the ability to check the individual item, like this check search for pauses, which is something I do every day. And when I click that, I can drag it to a different spot in the list. So for this one, I thought I really want to see that at the top of my list because it's kind of critical to make sure search is running. And when I click and drag that, you'll see the little red line which says where it's going to appear at. And then when you let the mouse button go, you're now at the top of the list, and it's going to remain there for the life of that task, however long you have it out there, which is really great because now you can start to order and prioritize your task list in this pane that you have right here, and you're not forced to go out to the entire task screen to take care of what you have. And for the person who pointed this out to me, it was a big thing for them because they have a lot of stuff going on, and they definitely wanted to have things in a slightly different order. So I thought this was a real quick tip that was something that you wouldn't necessarily see, but once you try it and you go, oh, that's kind of cool, and you get things in order, it starts to make life a little easier to work with.
It's funny, we spent so much of our lives, back in the days, whether it was content like in SharePoint or just on your computer, or within email, of creating folders and subfolders and organizing and filtering that. And we've been moving towards this kind of flattened view of our data, but you can't just rely on search at the top to find everything every time, that there still needs to be that, filtering and organization and some thought put into the process, no matter what the workload that you're in, about how you're going to quickly find the right data.
Yeah, because I mean, there's no way search is going to be able to prioritize this because it doesn't have enough metadata to know that.
Right.
So.
Well, I've launched the poll for this. So this is, you have the ability now to go in and vote. So I'm using, finding the right meeting time with find time, or reordering your tasks in Outlook. And just think about, which you will find the most useful.
Oh, I love it.
Without bias.
Actually, I got to tell you, find time compared to this one, find time is pretty cool.
I would say that too, that Tom's threats of not answering your tickets and things, I think that is an empty threat, so you don't need to worry about that. I'm pretty sure for those that are internal, the company will pick up all legal fees. I'm just assuming. And
Fan or Mahan will get on my case if I'm not out there actually doing it. So yeah.
Yeah. All right. We're and Tom, you're next up as well. So okay. Tom, back over to you. So round 2.
So now I'm going to opt over to Microsoft Teams, which Microsoft is really hot on Microsoft Teams right now. And while it takes a little bit of time to get your mind wrapped around exactly what Teams is and how you use it and things like that, it's becoming, it's kind of like the OneNote of 2017 now, in that at first I was like, OneNote, why would I want to use this? This is so stupid. Oh God, I don't want to use it. And then management started to use it. And we're like, fine, we'll go ahead and use. Well, now, of course, OneNote's like, I can't live.
How would you live without OneNote?
Yeah. Really. So I think Teams is going to continue to evolve into one of those kind of things, especially if you're working with a group of people. So here I'm looking at the Microsoft Teams client, not necessarily a browser, but the browser works the same way in this case. So we've got an organization chart software that's kind of wonky, kind of old, and it's really temperamental. And
is it Silverlight based?
No, it's not even Silverlight based. It has nothing to do with Microsoft or SharePoint or anything. It's just really old, and if you click on it now and it's not in IE, it actually redirects you to the vendor's address site. It's just really, really bad. But it works, and it has a couple things it does that other org charts that we've had don't do. But anyway, in Microsoft Teams, you can get an org chart basically out of the box, which is kind of cool to be able to do quick searches to figure out where somebody resides in an organization. So the easiest way to do this that I've seen is if you go out to chat and you've got a list of contacts, either favorites or somebody you've recently chatted with, if you click on their name like I did here with Sandra and click on the organization tab that you see over here in the work area, what happens is it actually gives you a full display of the org chart based on that person being in the middle, and then basically up the food chain and down the food chain. So in this particular case, you see that Sandra is hot track to the CEO position here, and then she's got these people working underneath her. If this were a situation where I was looking for my name, this chart would look the same, but instead of this one being highlighted where Sandra's a little larger and it's got the blue box around it, it would basically do that kind of highlighting for my name down here in the group of people that report to her. So it's a nice visual indication to see who am I reporting up to, and or who do I work with that is at the same level that I'm at. Now, one of the things that you need to keep in mind as a caveat to this is you may look at this and go, wow, Sandra's got a lot of people that report to her. She does, but not as many as you'd think here, because if you have any test account that have picked up AD information, so I've got 2 test accounts as opposed to my regular account here in the middle, those test accounts have information basically saying what department they belong to, which grabs my information. Therefore, they show up by default in this particular organization chart. So you kind of have to look at this and go, yeah, is this really a true representation of all the people that report to Sandra? No, it's not. But if you looked at all the names, you could say, oh, I can quickly count here and see that instead of having 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18 people, she's got like maybe 9 or something like that. Now, granted, you don't have the ability to export this information or to get, views and things like that. But for a quick, I need to know where this person's at before I send them an email, or do I have to be more formal or less formal or whatever, this is a really good way to go out and get the information.
Now, so you're able to go in and that's it, the person's alias and find them, because something that is when you're sitting in a meeting and somebody's talking, you're like, who is this person? And having their name or the alias to be able to go very quickly and see where they are in the organization can really help with understanding a perspective. I found myself, when I worked for Hewlett-Packard and then later for Microsoft, that having and knowing my way around whatever the org chart application was at the time was huge, enormously important to getting the most out of those large multi-team meetings, to know who people were and to understand if you should discount their voice or not.
Yeah, this is also nice if you're dealing with somebody and you're not getting the kind of response that you want. You could go out here to this org chart, put their name in, and figure out who it is you may need to talk to help potentially motivate them to get an answer to you faster than they
exactly.
So it's a real nice, quick and easy way to see that org chart data without having to go to a completely different application, provided you have one. And it's always going to be accurate, because this is probably going to have most of the people in your organization, because you probably got most of them involved with Teams and Active Directory and stuff like that.
So I guess, this version, improved calendar sharing in Outlook Mobile. So this is something where, I find myself using several of the mobile apps more and more. It's funny, about a year and a half ago, it may have been it was like a year and a half ago. There was a kind of a survey that was done. I don't know if everybody saw, if it was out, maybe it was just to, I know certainly within the MVP community got passed around, but I think it was out in the public, but it was talking about app usage and which ones that you're using. So somebody within Microsoft was looking for that data. I remember just thinking about that and thinking, really, there's just a couple things. Occasionally I'll go and move a file. I'll use the new OneDrive app, or but really just kind of minimal usage. Of course, I use the Outlook app, but there's just wasn't a huge fan of all the different apps. And there's just been an amazing update across the board to a number of the applications. Well, Outlook, they've continued to innovate there. But one of the shortcomings was always, if I want to go in and do some more advanced things, it was basically you had to set everything up when you're in the browser and set your preferences, and there's minimal advanced functionality within the app. But now you have the ability to go in there and do a number of things. I love this screen because I've done all of these things on here. I've gone in and looked at, well, what is I need to be able to look across other invites. I think like a lot of people, like I get notifications. I'll hear a ding, a bell, something. My phone will vibrate, and I'll go in and I'll look at Outlook. Nope, not there. Facebook messages, not there. Did I get a direct message from Twitter? Where did that come from? What was that? So being able to go in and look at, if you have started to consolidate those things at other calendar apps. But I've added another account to directly to the mobile app. Again, it used to be much more convoluted, but now it's really fast and easy to share out those calendars. So if you're sitting there having a conversation and want to go in and look at availability of a meeting room, to go and set up, the fact that you can do a delegated calendar. So you're going to be out on vacation, you forgot to do it while you were in the office, and can go onto your mobile device and have somebody set up to receive, important escalated emails while you're gone and be able to respond to those things, is pretty powerful now. So that was it. It was, the ability now to go in. This stuff has all been, I know that there's been some of the capability has been available through the previews, but it's all now generally available since September. And there's just a ton. In fact, there's some more recent announcements, some new features around the Outlook app. So you need to be watching the Microsoft the Office blog. I guess it's now the Microsoft 365 blog, since it's all inclusive. But you need to be watching that to find everything.
Yeah, one of the things that we're kind of dealing with is that as we've been rolling out Office 365 over the course of the last 4 or 5 months, probably the last significant chunk that we have to roll out is the mobile apps. And we really think that the mobile apps are going to be a big deal for a lot of people. And like for the people who've been in the pilot stage, the Teams mobile app is just like, oh, this is great, And having email capability, just general email, and being able to use the Outlook app for that has been a really cool thing.
Well, especially if your organization has been, a Skype for Business users, just having the Teams app for the chat. I mean, I rarely go look in the channels or look at documentation, but I use almost daily. I've got conversations that are happening within that Teams app.
Yeah, we're just having to take a little bit more time due to, one, the setup a lot of times seems to be a little flaky in terms of what we have to do for what we're using to secure information, making sure that we're not sharing PHI and stuff like that. So it's taking us longer to get to the mobile realm because we have to have a certain level of control on a person's device before we can really allow them to go out and start using all the particular applications that they could technically use, but we want to make sure that we're not sharing information that shouldn't go to the cloud at this point in time. So
right. And the poll, if you've not voted yet, it is open. We've got a 2-to-1 right now for Tom of the org chart over the improved calendar sharing and Outlook. Ending the poll, and congrats, Tom, on a win of poll 2.
1-to-1.
We're tied. All right. So let's run to go through. Tom won that round. Round 3. All right. Let's jump into this. So here is one that is another just kind of a broader tip, but there's some work that needs to be done to make sure that you're seeing what you want to see there. But you're now seeing that integration of Microsoft Search within your Bing.com results. So this is something that, especially for admins, if you weren't aware of this, Tom, you knew this, right?
I knew it. We don't do it, but I knew that feature is out there. I haven't pursued it yet, though.
So it's cool about this is that so you have some folks out there like Naomi Moneypenny that Tom and I are both friends with. It's now at Microsoft, a former MVP, and who's moved over into the search experience team and leads an engineering team over there. But so she's out talking, spreading the gospel of this integrated search across the Bing results that allows you to see. You can search on conversations, that first paragraph. That is huge. To be able to go to Bing and do a search and see data from the interwebs as well as across Teams and Yammer is amazing. So that's something that you can go in and now obviously the caveat there, it's in public preview, it's out there, is that the tenant admin, so this is an Office 365 related functionality, but they have to go in and set this up and to approve this. And this also then relies on your, all of the classification, the taxonomy that's built in the organization, that only the right content is then surfaced through these experiences. And that's why it's an admin it has to go and build this out. but to be able to go in and do a search and find all that internal information, because this is actually it's a question that we've had since as long as I've been in information management, and since the well, I got involved in the mid 90s and helped build out my first intranet when I was working for the phone company Pacific Bell. I was with a Pacific Telsis Shared Services Organization, so an IT team that serviced all of the Pacific Bell companies and Nevada Bell back in the day, and started to go through and understanding the limitations of search to kind of the modern day where our expectation is, well, based on my permissions on my profile, I want to find everything, because if everything that I own, that I have access to, if I have to go search in 10 different places to get an answer, am I finding the right information, the best information, or am I still having to do a lot of work? So this is a really cool feature. Next screen over. So you can set the scope of that across all of Microsoft 365. Of course, this is one of the things that Microsoft is they're working to ensure that every single workload, so whether it's SharePoint or Teams, OneDrive, Yammer, no matter what the product is, the workload is, that all of those tools are writing their data to the Microsoft Graph, which is what makes this expanded search capability possible. And so I likened it to the Delve experience, because you remember when Microsoft went and pushed out Delve, the typical response to Delve for first-time users were, I guess it's cool, but I don't really see value here. The problem was with Delve and that initial launch is because it had limited number of signals, a limited amount of information it was drawing from, it wasn't really that useful, that information, to the common user. And so as you add more data, as you give it more time for the AI, for the machine learning to get intelligent, to learn, to see the patterns of your usage and to provide greater value, people kind of gave up on it. Well, now you see that Delve-like capability being integrated into every workload, and this is kind of an extension of that. So it's being, similar functionality is being integrated across other apps, like I point out here, the SharePoint app, being able to connect into those other legacy systems. And so it's now in targeted release. You can find out more information out on the Microsoft 365 blog about this. But if it's something that you're not yet seeing, you should start having your conversation with your admin today.
And yeah, that would probably be me. So yeah, in our situation, being that we're really just starting the migration into SharePoint Online, I think that's where something like this is going to start to really show up as being useful. We don't use Yammer. The screen prior to this, you were showing in that final tab, it was like Teams and, okay, so it was Teams and Yammer. Yammer we wouldn't use, Teams obviously we would. So yeah, we've got a little bit of ways to go to get here, I think, but eventually I think something like this that can mix web-based and regular results in there will be really useful for some particular groups. So,
especially if you have other legacy applications and file shares and things that, definitely you'll be able to get more out of that.
Yeah.
All right, Tom, I'll let you take it over.
So let me go ahead and share. Come on, there we go. Hey, navigating backwards and forwards in Teams. What a concept. Yeah, this sounds vaguely familiar, like last tip I tried to present. So getting right back down to it again to speed things up a little bit here. When I first started using Teams, I had a real problem with hopping back and forth between activity and chat and Teams and files. And whenever I needed to get back to something I was doing, I was trying to have to find the navigation path again to get there, which tended to slow me down. And I was like, this is kind of cumbersome to work with. But then somebody happened to point out that, hey, up in the upper left corner, you've got these little back and forward arrows that look and work exactly like a web browser does. It's like, wow, I can think of Teams now as a browser type experience where I can go backwards and forwards between stuff. So what I had been on in the previous screen, I'd been in a chat, and then I had to go to Teams to find something that I had out there, probably based on some conversation I was having with Sandra. But instead of having to go back to chat, try to find this chat with Sandra, I was able just to click the back button. And when I did that, it took me directly back to where I was before. So I'm starting to find that that is a great way to navigate back and forth. And it allows me a little bit more freedom and less mental anguish when I have to leave like a chat screen or a team screen or something to look up peripheral information. I know I can get back there just by clicking the back button 2 or 3 times instead of having to figure out, okay, I was in chat, who was I chatting with, who's the person I need to find. I don't have to do that anymore. So that's really cool. And I kind of like that approach.
You know, it's you think about the Microsoft has been really good at providing 2 or 3 different ways of doing some very common tasks. You know, because different styles and kind of like keyboard shortcuts. Not everybody uses keyboard shortcuts, but having them for those that do, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so this is a great tip that works in concert with like favorites and tagging and kind of all those, so that you have a number of different ways that you're going in and classifying or favoriting content so that you're not losing your place.
Yeah, and if somebody's got like 6 or 7 or 8 different teams that they're part of, being able to go back and forth between teams and chats and stuff like that is really critical. And I think that one feature, with the back and forward buttons, can help adoption quite a bit when it sounds like something that's really minor, but it actually works very well.
All right, and the poll is open, and so voting has started. So it's the Microsoft search within your Bing results versus navigating forward and backwards in Teams. So he might be coming back. So let me go ahead and I'm going to end that polling. Tom won that round, decisive win there of round 3. Okay, so I've got that back. And so we'll go into round 4, and we'll just switch the order a little bit here. So here's my other Teams ad. Here's my Meta Teams item. If you've not yet seen this, you need to go and find it today. If you are starting to use or already well into usage of Microsoft Teams, then you definitely want to go and grab this resource and bookmark this URL. So the new Microsoft Teams adoption guide. So this is an interactive guide. So it's this URL. It has this. If you go to the screen, it automatically takes over your entire screen, and it's this interactive like magazine. But what's great about this is that, so one of the most common questions I heard, in fact, I was at the European SharePoint conference this last month over in Copenhagen, and spent a lot of time talking to attendees in the Ask Me Anything section of the expo hall, talking about Teams. The question that almost every person, as they walked up with questions about Teams, asked was, are there resources out there for adoption and help with end user engagement levels? Like what can we go and do? Now, certainly there's great content out there from the community, the MVP community, from various vendors that are out there, solutions, training programs, things like that. But the adoption guide is what's great about this, centralizes a lot of those Microsoft resources and goes through and identifies case studies. It talks about, in fact, if I forward the slide here, you'll see it. It actually goes through and over on the right, that graphic walks through the core capability within Teams: chatting, collaborating around content, meetings, calling, the mobile experience, as well as gives you the videos, and that's on the graphic on the left side, the quick start guide, introduction of the basic capabilities, how to get set up a team, how to go in there and utilize all the capabilities. It's just a fantastic all-around resource. So if you are wondering, like, what is Teams all about? What's the latest? this is what you need to go in. There's multiple ways that you can find it. It's all hosted out on, like it's got this Teamwork Tools. That's where that utility is. However, if you go to docs.microsoft.com and do a search, you can find it. Probably the quickest way to find it is go to successwithteams.com, and you'll find a link to all the latest resources and videos through that site, as well as this adoption guide. So a number of ways to find it. Nice. Tom, have you been using that internally yet?
It's one of those ones where I've seen it show up in Twitter a few times and I've favorited it, but I haven't had a chance yet to go out and look at it. So I'm glad you brought it up here. And it is something that I want to look at. And if it appears to be as useful as you've shown here, I may end up using it for a Spark 1 tip internally and then blogging about it too. But
wow, the doubt in your voice that it would add value to the organization.
I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right. That probably was not the best phrasing that I could have done.
Sure.
And by the way, I got dropped, so I didn't hear what the voting was on the last round.
Oh, you crushed it. It was 80-20%.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so great. I'm okay with moving on then. Yeah. But yeah,
right, over to you.
I would like to do.
You're round 4. We just switched places for this round, but you want to go ahead with round 4?
Cool. Yeah, we've been having problems with our proxies, and they've bounced a few times this morning. I was hoping it wouldn't do it from 9 to 10, but it did. So this is a tip that's kind of cool, especially depending on how you use Outlook and how much screen real estate you have. So I tend to use a message preview pane, so this isn't something that would normally be a high thing on my particular list, but if I were using just my regular work laptop without a nice large screen monitor, I would definitely want to do this. So what can happen is I'm looking at my regular inbox here, and normally I just see the name and I see part of the subject line and that's it. And if I go to view and message preview, you'll see I basically have this feature turned off. But however, if I turn it on and say I want to look at message preview and I want to show just one line of the message, you'll see I get the option to apply it to all mailboxes or just this particular folder. But you'll see now it shows me the entry that says thank you, which was the first line on this particular email that was sent back to me. So now I'm in a position of being able to get rid of my preview pane to see the entire email, and I can start to get some context for the email to see if it's something I want to open. And I can go ahead and go down one more level and say I want to see 3 lines. Now it's giving me a lot more context. Granted, the context may be my signature line, and it may actually wrap around. So it's going to be 3 lines that are wrapped, not necessarily 3 distinct lines in your email. But this is something that can be really useful to you if you're working with a limited size screen or a tablet or something like that, and you're not using a mobile app. This can really save what you're doing and let you see a lot more without having to open stuff up every time. So a good feature for that kind of work.
Yeah, in a perfect world where people use good descriptive titles, you wouldn't need this. I'm not saying about you. I'm just saying like people. Those other people, Tom.
Those other people, not us. No, because I would never do that.
Never us. Yeah, no.
Actually, I've been chastised for changing the subject line of a response, because then when you do your message cleanup, it doesn't work for message cleanup anymore. And I was doing that frequently, and I was told by my boss, it's like, I'd really prefer you didn't do that. I'm like, okay. So I'm just guilty now of doing the whole click repeat and go from there, click reply and go from there.
And I see value both ways, but yeah. So this is the polls are open now. So the Microsoft Teams adoption guide versus the changing the number of lines to show in the Outlook message preview, saving that screen space of having to preview the entire thing. So, but regardless of this, I mean and I completely understand that. I go back and forth. I think like a lot of people with my view of email. Depends on what I'm doing. If I'm sorting through, when I'm back from vacation, I shut off that preview and I go into this mode just so that I can see more. I can see kind of the threads, especially if you participate in some DLs. distribution lists, and where you just have a high volume of content there. But
exactly.
But regardless of this, if you're not yet using Teams, go take a look at the adoption guide. You definitely need to bookmark and check it out. And Tom, chastise.
Yeah, if it's as good as you say it is, Christian, I'll have to look at that.
Right, I'm going to end the poll for that one. So that is, we are now tied at 2 rounds apiece. That's a win for me. And Tom, why don't you take it with round 5?
Okay, this is something that applies to Outlook once again, but this one only applies to Outlook Online, and I really hope that they make this tip available in regular Outlook because it is pretty freaking awesome. So here I'm looking at my inbox in Outlook Online, and I'm just hovering over a message, the one that I have here from Sandra for request access. And when I hover over it, I see these 4 little icons on top of that message, the trash can, the forwarding type stuff, flagging, and there's a little push pin icon. And when it's sideways like this, it means that it is unpinned. But if you click that and it goes into a vertical look, that means that this particular entry's been pinned. Now, as soon as you pin it, nothing happens immediately, but when you refresh that screen, what happens is this particular message goes up to the top of the inbox, and it will stay there until you unpin it or delete it. And when they found this right after we rolled out Outlook Online, it was like, this is awesome. And of course, there was another group going, it doesn't work for me. Are you in Outlook Online? No, I'm just in regular Outlook. But I want to pin stuff. I'm like, you don't get to pin stuff in regular Outlook. So I'm really hoping they take this tip and push it forward into the Outlook client, because I think it would be one of those ones that people really like when they know that they can put something at the top of their inbox if they tend to work from their inbox, and it's not going to go away until they delete it or they work it or they unpin it. It's just right up there in your face. So I think this is a really cool feature, and it's another good reason to move to using Outlook Online.
I was just going to comment too about those users that aren't yet on 365, is that people always want what they can't have.
I know. And it wasn't like they didn't have it. It was like, okay, I tried it, but it didn't work. It's like, did you catch the Outlook Online piece? Yeah. What's that? God. We just rolled it out to the entire company, and we're still getting the what's that?
So one thing I would say that for everyone is that what's you're seeing some of these features which are consistent across workloads, like the ability to go in and pin something, whether you're working in Word or PowerPoint, or and you're opening up new files. Let's say you're working on several documents over the course of a project, and pinning them so that you're not losing them in the navigation. So you open up Word or PowerPoint or whatever it is, email in this example, but even on in OneDrive, in File Explorer, pinning things to the navigation so that you have the easier access. It's this consistent behavior across the workload types that you're seeing more of that kind of functionality with Microsoft.
Which is really cool, because this is important stuff to you, and I want to keep it out there in a way that I'm presented with it on a regular basis. So
exactly. All right. So the final ad here, and Tom, of course, shared a tip that is limited to a small subset of users. I'm trying to be inclusive to everyone.
He's pulling the Twin Cities approach on me.
Just for those that weren't there, is exactly what Tom pulled on me.
Twice.
And criticized me for sharing something that a subset of users. So I'm going to do the exact same thing.
Fine. Go ahead. Bring it up.
I'm just saying.
Okay.
For using polls.
Okay, that's cool.
Yep. So if you've not used this yet, so this is another one of those things where, so I've used multiple tools, third-party tools that are out there. So I do research projects. We working with through partners, use Qualtrics. So when you're doing, very industry research, marketing research, and where you're needing to do deep analysis of the data around that, that's not what this was meant to be for. But for internal or even externally shared polls, pulse surveys, Microsoft Forms can be really powerful. So it's been out there for a little while, but I'm come across people that are still using other little third-party tools. They're like, are you aware of Forms and that it's free? It's out there. It's a great tool to use. What's nice about this is that you have all of the the same abilities to go in there to create your form really quick and easy, to reorganize, even as it goes live or you're doing a small test to a sample, getting feedback and expanding that and pushing that back out to the broader audience. And then grabbing in that the results in real time or sharing this out after the fact. So it's something that I'm using more and more. In fact, I've got something that's going live in the beginning of the next year. I'm actually going to be doing weekly polls and then doing a blog post and doing a weekly snap poll and sharing the results every week. So the goal is to do 52 of them next year. And so it's going to be interesting to share that data and to capture that. But again, free is a great price. It's that magic number.
This is one of those ones where we wanted to roll it out sooner, but what we found is this uses the HTTP patch method, which the particular proxies that we had, we were at a level that didn't support that. So we kept wondering why every time we tried to do a Microsoft Form poll, it would basically die and wouldn't allow you to create it. And I think we're getting really close to having everything patched up to the current level to where we can roll this out. And it is one that a number of people have said, we'd really like to use this.
Right.
So we're getting close to it.
Well, the poll is now open. So, please go out and vote on whether you are more excited by a very limited capability that only a handful of people can utilize, or something that that soon inside your organization, Tom, but everybody can use around snap polls.
I am so going back to find whether or not you used Find Time before.
No, Tom, I'm going to take care of that. Don't worry about it. Before I grab that. So, but I would say that just as I'll leave the poll open for a second, but just a matter of time because we're right at the top of the hour now. So right now it's looking like I'm winning this round, but we'll see the final results. We'll post out with the slides whether Tom or myself take it, because if I repeated a topic, then Tom, you've got it.
Well, then we're just tied. It was a 2-2.
No, this will put you back in the lead. No, because I'll give you the round, so then it would be.
Okay, that's true. I was just thinking we'd throw that out. Yeah, now I am definitely gonna go look it up.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'll do that for the slides going live. But
great competition there, Christian.
Yes. Yeah, and thanks again for everyone for joining this. So to answer your question, yes, the slides and the recording will be made available, so out to YouTube. If you go up there, and I know that, and Tom, I'll let you and push your blog as well, but if you are interested in, you like this format and the suggestions, please go subscribe to the channel out on YouTube. If you just go to the YouTube and search on CollabTalk, you'll find the page and subscribe. There's a playlist for the Office 365 productivity tips, which you can find. But I'm trying to just get my subscribers up over 100 so I can call the channel the CollabTalk channel. So that would be great. But Tom, I'll let you wrap it up and close it out.
I would say have a happy Hanukkah and a Merry Christmas, but Hanukkah's already done. So therefore, have a great Christmas or whatever other event that you celebrate this time of year. And thank you for joining, as Christian said, and we look forward to having our next head-to-head duel probably sometime in January.
Yeah, in January. In the meantime, check out oneminuteofficemagic.com, Tom's blog that he forgot to plug. But I did
forget to plug that, yes.
Yep, so go take a look at that. You'll find a lot of these out there. And I'll just, again, subscribe to the YouTube channel. But also, if you're going to make it to Las Vegas in May, come see Tom and I go through our favorites.
Yep, we'll love it.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks a lot.